live stream as well. There we go. We're now live in both the WebEx and the YouTube. So the first thing I would say is, if anybody has any technical questions, if you're in the WebEx, please use the chat function. It's in the bottom right corner, or the bottom right corner, depending on where you're looking, of the YouTube, to be able to, of the WebEx rather, so that you can ask any technical questions. Particularly, one of the most common problems we find is that people have problems with the sound and the microphones. So if you go into the microphone settings and just double check rather the sound settings and the speaker you're coming to. Because this is a WebEx webinar, all the participants, all your microphones are muted, just so we don't get anybody accidentally unmuting and that kind of thing. But any problems, send me a message either in the WebEx chat or in the YouTube chat. This is the agenda we've got for the whole week. So the WebEx registrations are all closed now. We've filled up the maximum limits. But if you want to join, you can always go to the Together for Safety YouTube channel and live, and you can join there, share it with any colleagues anytime you like. Just a reminder that we have an in-person event we'd like to make you aware of, the World Overflight Risk Conference, hosted by us and Osprey, our partners on Conflict Zone platform, in July. So again, go to the EASA event page for that. And then finally, just to say, all the sessions are being recorded and will be available on the Together for Safety YouTube channel right after the session finishes. And we'll create links from the event pages to the presentations and everything that you see there. Don't forget to follow our AeroOps conference and community rather, and particularly download our Conversation Aviation magazine. And next month, at the end of May, there'll be the specific Conversation Aviation magazine around the summer ramp up that we'll share. Then finally, if you want to ask questions, please do that going to Slido, sli.do, or the Slido app. Use the code #SW24 and that passcode there. I won't expect you to remember it. I'll post them in the chat and in the YouTube live stream in a couple of seconds. I will just say, please check other people's questions and upvote rather than opening writing the same question 10 different times. And then we have a question that's been asked in 10 different ways sitting below other ones that people are answering. That's the logistics. I'll hand back to Yanis and the team for the rest of the webinar. Thanks.
Thank you, John. Well, we can now proceed straight to the first part of our session, runway safety, and in particular, the Austrian concept of the use of stop bars 24/7. It will be presented by Thomas Liebert from the Department of Aviation Infrastructure of the Austrian Civil Aviation Authority. Thomas, you have the floor.
Good afternoon from Vienna. And first of all, I would like to say that I present this short presentation on behalf of my colleague Jürgen Haller, who has today another meeting and it was not able to present it today. He presented it in the last TAP meeting. For our short presentation, Austria's 24/7 stop bar concept, or you can name it also one runway holding position, a cut-free holding position at each aerodrome. Because I know that afterwards all presentation would get online, we added all the regulative requirements for stop bars and for runway holding positions. I would not run through it now, and you also know the item that why you should implement or where you should implement a runway holding position with a stop bar. But why Austria switched to the stop bar concept? And as always, or in many times in aviation, it's based always on an accident. And Austria had this big accident at Vienna airport in the year 1972. And in 1972, the Aircraft Investigation Board concluded that there should be any changes also in Austria and also to follow the ICAO Annex 14 where possible and take everything out of Annex 14. And our colleagues in this time, they came up with the solution that based on this accident in the year 1972, there is only the best mitigations for Austria is that you have only one single runway holding position at each taxiway on each aerodrome, including an operational stop bar active during the operational hours of the aerodrome. Here you have one picture of Graz airport, where you see that we operate as that we have implemented this single runway holding position at the cut through 2-3 holding point, including a stop bar, and additionally, I marked it in the picture in red with the additional stop bar lights on the side of the stop bar. And there was 1 year ago, there was a safety assessment performed at one aerodrome where they came up that this additional stop bar lights on the edge, these elevated ones, are mainly not only for the big aircrafts, it also has an impact or a good impact for drivers, for vehicles. And you see, we find a solution that we implement these stop bars far from the center line. In this case, you see it on the left side, we have it 140 meters, also to respect the ILS sensitive and critical area, and also to respect as much as possible from the safety strip because of runway excursion. It's a little bit depending on the traffic. However, I come back to this element. However, we have concluded that we have all taxiways include with stop bar lights. Also, that will come new next year in Salzburg, also on a grass taxiway, where we implement a few meters, 8 to 10 meters of asphalt, including there the stop bars with elevated lights. Additionally, how you control them, that's the interesting part, because you have additional workload for controllers, and for runway safety issue, it is important that you can only operate as controller one single stop bar light. So you see here on the left side the picture of Vienna International Airport with 2 runways from 129 and 1634, including the taxiways from Bravo 1 to Bravo 12 and Alpha 1 to Bravo to Alpha 12. And the controller is only able to switch off only one of these stop bars. And additionally, a safety concept. After he pressed the button for deactivate the active stop bar, after seconds, that's depending on the aerodrome, the stop bars will get automatically active again. So there are 2 options for the controller: to activate again the stop bars after giving an aircraft a bypass, or if he forgot or he has a higher workload, after seconds, the single stop bar light will activate again. And you see, for the next issue, which is the element, is there any constraints in the item of aircraft flows? So is there a restriction in the limits? My colleague come up with the solution with for the taxi ways with the highest number of movements in Vienna. So that's the end of the runways, so Alpha 1-3 and Bravo 1-2. And he calculated according some figures the time loss if you have a runway holding pattern type A, so without any stop bars, or you position the aircraft far away from the runway center line. So there is a time loss of a few seconds, so around 5 to 6 seconds. It's the time loss. You see it here calculated. And it's a little bit a reduction in the traffic flow, about 3%. But for this, we conclude in Austria that safety first. And I would like to say that we have in Austria operate stop bars and the same concept on all 6 international aerodromes. And the smallest one is now at the moment the aerodrome of Linz, with far below 100,000 passengers and movements and movements around 15,000 a year. So that's not much. However, we see there a big element of increasing safety with this. The item and the last 2 slides for you is that if you have, or if Austria operates it with stop bars during operational hours, they are always lit. There is, you can switch it also with the intensity lights. You can switch it from stage 1 to stage 5. It is also what my colleague always said, it's a less complex situation for electrical engineers to put them in. It is safety assessed long ago, and every 5 years there is any improvement in this system. Maybe we discuss on, is it possible to have a second stop bar switched on so you can have a crossing between some terminals, which we have in Salzburg, so we can cross in the middle of the runway with one aircraft where another one is lining up on another position. So we have always ATC staff involved, and in all elements, they are very pleased with this concept and said, do not change anything at this system because it's very safe for them. It's also easy to train for vehicle drivers, that you say always stop before the red barriers, before the red stop bars in vehicle training. And also what we like to say is that we also implement red stop bars in Vienna if we have 2 runways. If there is a construction work on one of the runway, we also operate them. Also for the runway which is not in use, the stop bars are also active. So also the drivers of some trucks are getting awareness training also during their works on the runway, that always stop bars are on, and they have to ask if they like to go over, and we switch off the red lights. And we have an investigation that there are nearly no runway incursions in the last 5 to 10 years due to this concept. Not zero, but very less. And yes, the disadvantages at the end, yes, it's more workload for ATC staff, but it is reasonable for safety, and this is also the answer from anyone of ATC. It's higher power consumptions, yes, right. However, safety is first, and this little higher consumption should be worth to consider. It's right that it depends, the concept depends on the taxiway structure and geometric. Yes, it's not possible maybe to implement at each aerodrome. However, it should be considered. So we have 6 different layouts and we consider it on 6 different aerodromes. And at the end, which is the most, it's a disadvantage because it costs you during other operational situations more of your time. It's that you have to have a failure function system. So if a stop bar on one taxiway is not working, you should find a solution, and the solution in Austria is we close it. We close Alpha 1 if there is no stop bar during VMC, we close it via NOTAM and with a physical barrier. And during construction work, we also consider the stop bars are necessary. Thanks for your attention, and thanks to my colleague who is the mastermind behind this presentation.
Okay, thank you very much for this clear presentation of the Austrian concept, Thomas. Indeed, you have presented all the advantages and disadvantages, of course, of the continuous use of the stop bars. Thank you very much. We will proceed now to the second part of our runway safety topic. All the three next presentations are going to be on the same topic. In fact, the local runway safety team, which has been implemented, the regulation about it has been adopted by ICAO and EASA, and as a matter of fact, EASA is going to adopt new regulatory material on this subject, strengthening the role of the local runway safety team. So I will give the floor now to the first panelist presenting on this issue. It is going to be Francesco Bertazzini, who is the head of the airport safety and the deputy safety manager of Milan Airport. Francesco, you have the floor.
Thank you, Ioannis, and good morning, everybody. Here, our experience, the starting point was a very well-known process and tool, as we can call the local runway safety team for both our airports in Linate and Malpensa here in Milan. For the scope of the presentation, I will limit the presentation about Malpensa, which was the test bed for the innovation in our local runway safety team. The local runway safety team is part of our safety program, which is completed by safety committee, which are run one every month, every airport. So we got a grand total of 24 safety committee per year in our group. And the attendance in our local safety team, as you can see here in the slide, was quite varied, but was limited to the stakeholder needed into the meeting, because the 90% of the meeting was merely a reaction to a problem, such as a runway incursion, mainly was the biggest part, and then we have the emergency plan debrief following a real emergency occurred into the airport and was carried out in conjunction with our emergency response plan manager. So this was the main topic and the main problem we faced. So we decided to move to a more proactive approach and utilization of our local runway safety team. The scope is not just to react to something, but also to improve the safety level of our airport, including, for example, some airside works, improve operation efficiency, and major events prevention, such as runway incursion, runway excursion, and deal with the emergency. To join the scope, we extend our expertise range, including different aircraft type pilots and union, and bringing on the table their expertise. Also because different type of aircraft come from the very big wide bodies to the small general aviation aircraft operate the same apron and the same runways with a difference in time, because we got cargo aircraft mainly during night and then all the others during daylight. We also bring the ATC unions into the meeting because they can drop their expertise from abroad and from the 8 national control center all across the country. And we also made a sort of internal follow-up, including some of the colleagues we work every day together, such as maintenance, operation, infrastructure development, and environmental control. Environmental control, Malpensa is not embedded in a big city, but we need them because of the noise abatement procedures that we have in place, and the citizenship living nearby are quite strict on them. So having them on board means smoothing all the process for any change we need. Last but not least, this could help us in pointing out the proper period of the year where a change and an improvement should be included, such as airside works. We ended up doubling the number of meetings. We started from 4 and we go up to 8 meetings per year. It's a very big effort in time of people needed and meeting management, but it was very important and really efficient. This brings us to a case study, which we are working on it right now in these days. Means in the red area on the map, you can see that we're gonna close for about 20 days one of the a part of the major and most populated taxiways we have in Malpensa. This is called the taxiway whiskey, which is a preferential route when you land from runway 35 left or 35 right to join the apron of Terminal 1, which is the mainly used in Malpensa. All arrival and departure aircraft will be then deviated on the taxiway Charlie, which is the one in between the two runways, where the the red alert sign is placed, and it's going to be quite a bottleneck since all the aircraft moving up and down will pass only in that point, excluding the utilization of runways. We have noise abatement procedures because at night time we need to take off from the north, so 17 runways are in use normally. We are on the apron at Terminal 1, we have a maintenance facility providing mainly maintenance for aircraft which are based on Terminal 2 aprons, so they move every night up and down from Terminal 1 to Terminal 2, using mainly normally taxiway whiskey. And the other thing is that taxi time is could be increased by this fact in terms of operations, and also in terms of safety, means an increase of runway occupation time and runway crossing. So what about the risk of runway incursion? In what we find out during this process are two key facts. The first one is the positive one, that bringing more stakeholders to the table means the possibility for us to determine the best scenario, considering all constraints and evaluating a solution that can be fit and they are good for all the users of the airport. And then I put a number, which is not a bad thing, but is something we have to deal with, is that this approach generates a high volume of action and activities, also because every meeting has his own agenda and his own action plan. So you have to implement a very strong and robust project management to deal with all the project, because this one in the case study is just one of the project and the activities we carried out during our local runway safety team. This is one of the biggest and much important, but then we have all the others. They have to be grouped and managed all at the same time, especially to guarantee the safety of flights and the operations again. Especially we expect for the next summer and the next year an increase of traffic about 8%, and we already overcome the 2019 limit during last year. So for this reason, it's very important, and we appreciate really much this approach we implement. This was my last slide, and thank you all, and thank you for EASA and Ioannis for the invitation.
You're welcome, Francesco. We thank you for this very good presentation. Indeed, all the documents that contain processes, procedures should be living documents. That is, they should be updated based on lessons learned. And your example of the update of the functioning, the setting up and the function of the local runway safety team in Milan was a very good example of that. We will proceed now to the second presentation on the local runway safety team issue. The presenter is going to be Paul Kennedy from the Irish Airport Aviation Authority, who is actually the head of the aviation infrastructure. Paul, you have the floor.
Thank you, John. Just confirm you can hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thanks very much. So thanks again for the opportunity to share our experiences in Ireland with the local runway safety team. We'll be looking at this from the ATM-ANS point of view, from the air traffic control point of view in Ireland. It's very interesting listening to the previous speaker and how it complements our experiences here in Ireland as well. I have a regulatory background. I was an air traffic controller in Dublin Airport for a long time, but I'm a regulator now. So consequently, I always dip into the regulatory requirements. So I suppose for local runway safety teams, safety plans and the global safety strategy from ICAO is always what permeates down to the local runway safety team. So we can see from the global aviation safety plan down to the European plan and down to the state plan in Ireland is basically where the local runway safety teams get elements of guidance in relation to that. From the global point of view, we can see that the high-risk categories are runway incursion and runway excursion, and there's global action plans that help inform the activities of the local runway safety teams as well. And indeed, EASA has taken that global strategy and the global actions and recommendations and brought that into the European Plan for Aviation Safety, which we can see here. From the runway excursions point of view, and the key risk area of runway collisions, which would equate to runway incursions, we can see that evidence or the strategy has been put on states to implement at national level for incursions. So we've done that through our safety plan. Our national runway safety forum has been set up, and then the individual local runway safety teams there as well. And then for collisions, there's a key focus on human factors and the ATM-ANS ground equipment. So the surveillance, the preventative ground equipment that can help the controllers detect the possibility of a runway incursion as well. Again, the key risk areas in relation to ATM-ANS, undetected occupied runway, high energy conflict, inaccurate provision of weather information, these all feed into considerations by the local runway safety team, particularly from an ATM-ANS point of view. And then the recommendations and the guidance that is set out in the global plans for runway incursions and runway excursions, we can see they touch on safety management and support for the runway safety teams, for communications, for accurate aeronautical information, understanding for ATC to understand the pilot workload on the flight deck, to understand what is actually transpiring as the aircraft taxis and particularly as they line up for departure on a runway as well. And then have ATC procedures that enhance the safety of the operations, and of course supported by technology as well. And again, for the runway excursions, not so much a tower, but a air traffic control approach to ensure that the aircraft is stabilized on the approach as well. When they're changing the runways, to ensure that that is done in a manner that allows the pilots to brief for the particular runway that is going to be used. And then elements that may contribute to missed approaches and various things like that. So all good examples and good guidance material that can feed into the local runway safety teams and indeed the safety plans, the state safety plans as well. For Ireland, we set up a national runway safety forum, which complements the local runway safety teams. And then we have training as well that we try to encourage organizations to ensure that the competency of the personnel is maintained through understanding the outputs of local runway safety teams. And again, that will be the same for runway incursions. From a state level, we've been taking a risk approach to the runway protection, and we pass that information on to the local runway safety teams, aerodrome operators, and the ATM/ANS providers as well. CESAR, obviously a big, huge European project, is delivering some projects for the protection of runways as well, and we encourage all the aerodromes to buy into the projects that are coming out. So from an ATM/ANS point of view, if we look at local runway safety teams, predominantly the aerodromes regulation sets up the aerodrome operator to lead and basically facilitate, establish, and encourage other stakeholders to be part of it. For the ATM/ANS regulation 373, we can see there it's just down in the guidance material that the service provider should participate. However, the requirement for a service provider, ATM/ANS service provider, to have a management system basically ensures that they do participate in this, because if I go in and ask a question of an ATM/ANS service provider, how are you managing risk at the aerodrome? If they're not participating in a local runway safety team, then that means that their management system is not quite as effective, because they're missing a huge portion of information that can feed into their risk mitigation measures as well. So whilst the regulation may be slightly light for ATC providers, it's the management system which ensures that they participate fully as a key risk manager at the aerodrome. In Ireland, we have that's the country where I live there, surrounded by the sea. So aviation obviously is quite important to us, because there's only 2 ways off the island, swimming or in an airplane. So we have a number of aerodromes that are all have air traffic control at them, and these all have local runway safety teams established. In general, the makeup from the aerodrome side, as the aerodrome leads, we'd have the safety office, operations, infrastructure, airfield integration, and the regulatory compliance. The safety office and infrastructure are very important, particularly when it comes to, as the previous speaker spoke about, infrastructural projects that may have an impact or restrict the throughput of traffic and filter the traffic onto other parts of the infrastructure that could have safety consequences as well. Again, from the ANSP point of view, the safety manager, operations manager, incurrence investigators, and engineering. Engineering is important for the CNS infrastructure and surveillance that helps a lot of aerodromes safely manage their traffic in poor weather conditions. And the occurrence investigators also attend. We do have a tendency to find that the ATM/ANS service providers have a slightly more mature occurrence investigation system, probably because some of the investigations involve not just aerodrome operations, but radar-based operations as well. As a competent authority, we have aerodrome and ATM inspectors and flight ops inspectors attend to give a regulatory view if needed. And then the airlines that are based, if there are airlines based at an aerodrome, we have them there as well. For those aerodromes that don't have the airlines based there, we encourage them to submit the minutes if there's no attendance from an airline, to submit the minutes to the airline safety office for them to consider. And then the ground handling representatives, Jonathan Heavney and Liz Cova will speak a little bit more about safety stack and how that's feeding into local runway safety teams as well. So general topics discussed, infrastructural projects, as I mentioned, are quite important so people can get some planning in place. More and more what's coming to light is aeronautical information management as well. The level of NOTAMs out there, the number of aeronautical information circulars or AIP supplements. Basically, this means that an airfield is dynamic, a lot of works in progress, and this can lead to confusion and lack of situational awareness, particularly for air traffic controllers sitting in to perhaps an environment that has changed, and for crew particularly coming in with amendments to charts for taxiing based on NOTAMs and various things like that. It can lead to elements of confusion as well. Safety performance is also reviewed. Again, the ANSP generally would take the lead on this based on the higher level of competence that can be seen there as well. Safety promotion is very important, getting the message out to the organizations that operate on the airfield, the lessons learned. And then from the national point of view, passing the lessons learned at more perhaps complex aerodromes that see more occurrences, passing those lessons on to less complex aerodromes as well. So what I have here is a couple of charts on ground deviations. So we can see on the left-hand side, we have 2017 up to 2023. We have the rate per 100,000 movements moving along there. And then for ATM ANS, this is a chart from reports from ATM ANS service providers, but it's also the alert rates and the targets that have been set out to give an indication of performance in relation to that. So it's kind of clear to see from the blue line that there is an increase in the ground-based deviations, and this would include taxiway deviations as well. So aircraft receiving a clearance but then deviating onto a different taxiway, as well as runway incursions as well. I won't go into too much into the detail. We don't have too much time, but you can see that the red bar and the orange bar there are standard deviations, and they're alert levels that action needs to be taken in relation to that. For runway incursions, again, really the picture says it all. We can see from 2023 and predicted into 2024 is we have an uptake in runway incursions at this particular airport from an ATM ANS reporting point of view. So what do we do based on that information? So from an ATC point of view, what we have here is really the scope of responsibility and the scope of actions that can be taken in relation to ATC, air operators and aerodromes. So this is really just, if we take ATC procedures, the use of ground lighting, stop bars exactly, phraseologies, the speed and complexity of clearances being given out, the availability of ground equipment, so there's the ground surveillance radars, runway incursion alerting, these all are within the scope of an ATC unit, but what is not in the scope is aerodrome signage, the taxiway and runway infrastructure, and various things like that. And also flight deck procedures and various things like that. So coming together as a local runway safety team allows for discussion about combining mitigations to address the particular issues, and particularly as we know from the last slide, we've seen an increase in runway incursions. So, the output that from one of the LRSTs is we've had action in relation to runway holding position, taxiway routes, the management of change between multi-stakeholders, AIM, safety awareness campaigns, and then phraseologies used by air traffic control clearances. So take a particular example. What we have is Dublin Airport here. We have a new runway that was introduced in 2022 and a new tower. It's very important that the aerodrome, who's generally the lead sponsor on these infrastructural changes, highlights the changes so that ATC and others can initiate project planning, but also synchronization of the change as well to ensure that the safety assessments under the both organizations' SMSs are synchronized, particularly when it comes to AIP publications, that publication can't be made without safety cases giving assurance that the change will be managed within tolerability levels. And then we have the sharing of mitigations as well, like a mitigation for an aerodrome infrastructure piece may be an ATC procedure. So, if you have a hazard and another organization is helping lower your risk, then there needs to be a good understanding. And in general, that will be set out through formalized arrangements between the organizations. So another example here is a runway holding point, which was unusually 180 degrees opposite direction to the runway. We had a high level of runway incursions, as it was indicated in 2023 graph there. So it was an error-inducing location. ATC procedures were not enough. So phraseology, various things like that just couldn't address the particular issue to hand. So what happened was, if we look at the right-hand side of the screen here, is that this position is going to be moved. So that's an aerodrome infrastructural project. However, there are assessments required from ATC as well with navigational issues, visibility of PAPIs, various things like that. It's also not a regulatory compliant position, that the higher one is and the lower modified one is not. So that is on a special condition. We anticipate that pilots are now expecting a holding point at 90 degrees to the runway as well. So that will be implemented in the next few months as well. Also, we found that the definition of runway incursion is well understood, but when can it be used? So to summarize what's on the slide here, and people can read it at a later stage, is a runway until it's not. Just because the runway is not in use doesn't mean it's not a runway. Really, the only way you can declassify a runway is to note them as closed or withdraw it from the AIP. If it is noted as closed and an aircraft lands on it, it's not a runway incursion, but it is a runway safety event. So the term technical runway incursion and various things like this, we've tried to discourage. They're all runway incursions. It's just the level of severity associated with the event as well. Other things to reduce the level of phraseology was the renaming of taxiway structures. So we can see above Bravo 7, Bravo 6, and then Sierras. So that helped reduce complexity in RT traffic. And again, the reduction in NOTAMs. There's a high level of NOTAMs at some airports, so we need to translate them into AIP supplements, which are easier and clearer to read, and in an AIRAC cycle, which means they can make it onto charts as well. And then finally, going forward as well, so it's clear that safety is an ongoing activity. It's very important that the stakeholders at the airport, ATC, the aerodrome, airline operators and ground handling, have this open and in a just culture environment conversation as well. The LR3 monitoring capabilities, we'd like to see them harmonized. We're striving towards that. So a common way of monitoring so that we have like-for-like understanding of the risk. And we're going to focus on the errors on the ground transversing onto the flight deck, so a reduction in pilot error as well. Runway protection technologies, so almost last resort, so the alerts to the controllers. And again, a further emphasis on training and safety promotion material for the personnel that operate at the airport. That's the presentation. Thanks very much. I think we'll have questions at the end of it. Thank you.
Yes, indeed, Paul, the questions will be set at the end, made at the end. Thank you very much for the presentation about the contribution of the air traffic controllers to the runway safety. And indeed, it is this dissemination of the lessons learned of the experience of large organizations to the smaller ones that is a critical factor regarding the achievement of our goals for the reduction of safety occurrences. Thank you very much for this presentation. And the third panelist about this issue, the local runway safety team, comes from the flight crew community. It is Sven Grasmück, who is the chair of the Airport and Ground Equipment Group of the German Airline Pilots Association. Hello, Sven. You have the floor.
Everyone, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the other panelists, and they had quite a few issues, which I like a lot how they are being handled. So yes, if I'm starting right away, my name is Sven Grasmück. I'm a pilot on Airbus A340, and I'm here on behalf of the European Corporate Association to talk a little about runway safety teams and how they can reduce the risk of runway incursions. So there we go. Is there a runway safety issue? Well, looking at the high risk categories of the ICAO Safety Report 2023, which is looking at accidents of the year 2022, it seems that we rather have a problem with the upper categories, the controlled flight in terrain and the loss of control in flight. They take a huge bit of all fatal accidents, and they are responsible for most fatalities. But sadly, this is in the nature of these accidents. And luckily, after the years of efforts from industry, these type of accidents make only up a few accidents of the total number of accidents. So maybe we have to look a little bit further down the chart, and there's the runway excursion. ATSB says that 96% of all runway accidents are runway excursions. Depending on the source, it's something between 30 a year and 1 a day. So, but the good news, runway excursions usually happen at slow speeds, and they tend to be non-fatal, as you can see for the runway excursion part here. So maybe we should have a look at the runway incursions. They don't look that bad on first sight. The blue column is just a small one. But if we go further into detail, we see that they make up the most fatal accidents by category. Luckily, they only claim 1 to 2 fatalities per accident, and it's just some ground personnel like in Guinea or Lima. But in my opinion, any casualty is 1 too much. And the latest accident in Haneda reminded us that it's just a very short way from 5 casualties to 500 casualties. So I think it's a very important issue, and FAA reports that they have 1,756 runway incursions in 2023. That's 2 per day. And if you're asking me, that's too much. And I bet there are more incidents which are not reported, because obviously people tend to be shy on reporting them. So there may be even more. Of course, here we are at the EASA level, we are in Europe, and Europe has about a fifth of traffic of the US. So that would still make it, just by numbers, make it 1 incursion every 2nd day. This is, in my opinion, a little bit too much. So there must be a reason that all the smart brains, I guess I've seen some of the participants on the name list here. All the smart brains, they came up with the idea of ICAO Doc 9870 for the prevention of runway incursion. Of course, the EASA regulation 139/2014, GAPRI, you name it, they all call for runway safety teams for some reason. What I like about runway safety teams is that it's just one of the few occasions where you can bring all stakeholders of an airport operation to one table or at least one virtual room. I mean, we heard it before, it's no use to wonder why truck drivers are responsible, for example, for taxiway incursions, but there's no truck driver in the room. Also, runway safety teams can be a great platform to share and collect data. And as human beings tend to be lazy, it's also a good opportunity to remind the participants that proper reporting is key to a good SMS and therefore to identify hazards at your or any airport. But even with the proper SMS, I find that issues often arise from the discussions with the team members. So this can quite be fruitful if you bring in all the people, let them talk and find out what the issue is by discussion and find a collaborative solution considering all the views to a hazard which was identified before or to a hazard which was just identified during your discussion. So, well, I'm here as a pilot. Question is, what are pilots actually good for at a runway safety team? When bringing together all the stakeholders of an airport operation, why would you have the pilots there? Because they don't work at your airport all day. They may be just visiting your airport every 2nd day, every 3rd day, once a month, you name it. Well, FAA claims that 60% of their incursions are pilot error. So safety teams are a very good opportunity to ask pilots why they do mistakes. And believe it or not, they do a lot of mistakes. But luckily, you can ask them afterwards why it came to a mishap. Pilots can also bring in infos from other airports, since they fly into different airports in different countries, and they can not only share the experience, how things are being handled at other airports, but also provide international solutions, as we heard before. So they see a lot, they can tell you a lot, and especially if you plan any changes, as been seen at the Malpensa example, I like the presentation of Malpensa, thank you for that. You can ask them how they like your changes, if they deem the circumnavigation of your construction site useful or not, for example. And also your civil aviation authority may require feedback from pilots on your proposed changes. Vice versa, maybe the operator or the aircraft manufacturer of the pilots in your runway safety teams plan any changes in procedures. The pilots in your runway safety team, they can tell you in advance, maybe not years in advance, but days in advance, if there are any changes planned. So now we have hopefully the pilots in the runway safety team. Now the question is, why should there be a pilot association in your safety team? Obviously, I'm here for the pilot associations, for the European Cockpit Association, and mostly pilots participating in runway safety teams, at least from my experience, I saw in the other presentations that there are other examples, I like that. They are from management, and they usually have an agenda. Obviously, it's being about saving money or being number one at your airport. I know exceptions do apply, and sometimes you don't even have an airline or management pilot based at your airport, so there is no pilot there who can participate in that runway safety team. Pilot associations have members from many airlines, business aviation, or sometimes even private aviation, and therefore they can provide all views and connect to different airline groups or aviation groups if needed. Also, they can inform their member pilots about anything you wish from your airport, or maybe even your civil aviation authority. Airlines can do this as well, and I know some examples of airlines who are doing a great job in doing so, but without naming or blaming anyone, I know that there are some airlines who may be a little bit lazy on informing their pilots. In the end, our mission is safety, and that's why we are part of, well, we are active at ICAO, we are part of working groups, and therefore we can provide you with insights to ICAO or propose changes there. Personally, I'm a huge fan of international standards, and I often try to encourage my airports at the runway safety teams to bring their local solutions to an international level and make their solution an international standard. It's obvious that those airports who go forward with any of their great ideas, and there are a lot of great ideas around, if they make it to ICAO, they make it to an international standard, they will set the standard. Pilot associations, we are obviously part of network here. That's the European Cockpit Association. Beneath that, we have the National Cockpit Association. I'm part of the German Cockpit Association. And above all, there's the IFALPA, the International Federation of Airline Pilots. So whenever you are at your country, you don't find anyone to talk to, you may just step up on the next level, and the European or the National Pilot Association, they can help you to find your local pilots. So after all, ICAO Runway Safety Handbook and Doc 987, they all call for technical experts of pilot associations. Unfortunately, over the last years, EASA has changed their wording to pilots as to be sufficient at the runway safety teams. And sadly, I know some runway safety teams who chose those words to say, well, any local flying school is, well, there are pilots in flying schools, so that's enough for my requirements. So we heard a lot about runway safety teams before. I'm not trying to go too much into detail, but let's just imagine we are the runway safety team at an airport, and for some reason we have pilots who are doing a lot of runway incursions. So it's no surprise that the pilots in your runway safety team can provide you with the cockpit view. And experience has shown that pilots cause runway incursions mostly due to inadequate situational awareness. That's always the beginning of a runway excursion. They will most probably provide you with various barriers to your problem, or even to probable solutions or escalation factors with to your problem, to your hazard. For example, they can tell you in which flight phase or phase of ground movement, ground operation, ATC instructions are not quite useful due to high workload on the flight deck, or when head-down tasks have to be performed and pilots are just not capable of taking any more controller clearances. And also, given from their procedure layout, they can tell you at which point they can still accept and easily change taxi or departure routings. They can also tell you from which point on local language makes it very hard for pilots to build situational awareness on other aircraft on the airfield, or maybe even approaching the airport. Good example here is just this Saturday, Swiss flight at JFK, everyone was talking English, so the flight crew could easily identify that there were 3, I believe, aircraft to cross in front of a Swiss Airbus 330 who was already cleared for takeoff. If they were talking, not just taking any language, French, Spanish, German, whatsoever, it would have been hard for the Swiss flight crew to identify that other aircraft were clear to cross in front of them. So all those and the following points, they are always specific to your airport, because we have different layouts, obviously. And well, just to provide you with an example, and I'm not blaming Boston Airport. I just took the example of Boston Airport because I was flying in Boston by the time I was asked to do this presentation. And I just want to give you an example of complicated airport design where a lot of runway crossings in close proximity to taxiways makes it hard for you, for a pilot to find your way around. I think I don't have to talk a lot about this airport because just the first glance of all the runways crossing and taxiways all the way around, it makes it clear to you that the pilot will tell you that it's very complicated to find your way around. And this is the first way to go for runway incursions. Another example, upper left-hand picture, that's your holding position marking. And it may seem perfect from your car, but it happens that cockpit windows do get dirty. We have a hazy day, and things do look very different from the flight deck when your windscreen is cluttered with dead insects. And then it's all about the contrast. On the lower right-hand side, you can see what contrast makes for a difference for runway holding position markings. Up to now, there were no big secrets. Any pilot could tell you this. In the following slides, they go a little bit more into detail. When you need a knowledge of documents or systems on the market, technical airports of pilots associations, they are often close to the heartbeat of new technologies, or as they are part of working groups at ICAO, they're a little bit closer to documentation, which is out. So, next picture. I was talking about contrast before, and I brought this picture up a little bit earlier so you could get familiar with this picture. We have nice contrast, very bright yellow taxi lines, but in a rush. Would you see one of the most active runways in Europe crossing left to right? And even on a bad day, bad weather, it's hard to see that there's actually a runway crossing left to right. So I'm a huge fan of stop bars, and I like the Austrian example, which we had before. Stop bars 24/7, personal opinion, that's the way to go. So I know there are a few cases, and it's often argued that red stop bars don't always help. Yes, there are still cases where people, for some reason, still cross red stop bars. But honestly, looking at this picture, it's blurry. I know that's how it looks. Again, dirty cockpit window, bad day, hazy day. You will definitely see the red lines and you won't cross them. Next step, which would be runway status lights. They are installed, for example, in Paris, many US airports, but unfortunately, most European line pilots, they don't know about them, so they can't tell you about them. Another thing, and I'm coming to the end of my presentation, is the ICAO standard taxiway naming, DOC 9157. I know it's also at EASA. And not going too much into detail, what I like a lot is the idea of alphanumeric taxiways leading onto runways and off runways. So this raises awareness that whenever you're close to a runway and you are faced by an alphanumeric, well, a number and a letter, obviously, you know that there is a runway close by. So with this example, we have Boston again, still no Boston bashing, I know. It's just I had this airport here and I don't have a pointer yet, but you will see taxiway Mike right in the middle. This Mike taxiway, just one single letter, it takes you all the way across the Boston airport, crossing 3 runways and taking you on the 4th runway. If there would have been a letter in there, something alphanumeric, and it would maybe help to raise awareness that in front of you, there is a runway coming up. So, taxiway naming, last example, one of my favorite examples actually, it's Heathrow Airport. It's often argued that you can't change historic layouts and rename taxiways, but just for example, and I know there are other good examples in the world, they made it very clearly that taxiways leading onto a runway are alphanumeric, and whenever you're on an alphanumeric taxiway in London Heathrow, you know there's a runway coming up. So I could keep on talking for ages about safety barriers, pilot thoughts, but now I'd like to hear some of your thoughts or read them so we can discuss them later. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sven. It was a very good presentation indicating the importance of the participation of the proper representatives of the flight crews in the local runway safety teams. And I also like the fact that you mentioned that the experience of the flight crews, the way that the flight crews actually see the markings, the visual aids in general, the whole of the infrastructure of an aerodrome plays an important direct role in the safety of the runway operations. Thank you very much. So we will now proceed to the second part of the session, which is about the safety stack concept. And handing the floor directly to Liz Colville, who is the Aerodrome Manual System Manager at Dublin Airport. Hello, Liz. You have the floor.
Hi. Hi, folks. Just checking that you can all hear me.
5 out of 5.
Yeah, all good.
Super, thank you. So thanks so much for the opportunity for us to introduce the safety stack at Dublin Airport, which more or less started through a conversation with some colleagues in Luton Airport. We thought this would be very interesting to get involved, and obviously with our EU regulations that are upcoming, that we could start and be the poster boy or girl for safety stack. We commenced with a survey in May 2022 and got some very interesting results back from all of our stakeholders. So basically who attends our stack here in Dublin, it's very much a collaborative emphasis on obviously safety culture, cooperation, best practice and our knowledge sharing. So obviously we want to foster that true safety culture at Dublin Airport, and our strategy was to increase reporting and reduce safety incidents, improve our safety engagement throughout the airfield, across collaboration, completely common approach with everyone, adhering to the regulation and ensuring we had clear communication plans and that collective stakeholder engagement, promoting our safety culture and onboarding of our safety ambassadors here. So how we did this was a complete and comprehensive engagement with everybody. So we have everyone at our safety stack, from our DAA teams, our safety and regulation team, our airport police, ground handlers, airlines, the regulator, national police, our fire and rescue, our airside safety operations, and ATC fuelers. So everybody gets an opportunity to be involved and to have their say. And I suppose what's really important to us is that we have adapted a safety ambassadors program. So that means anybody can be a safety ambassador, and whilst you could be a safety rep, and your role is very easily identified as amongst your own team, a safety ambassador is somebody who stands outside of a particular stakeholder or company, and they can speak with everybody who works their side across the airfield and can address safety issues. It's not an authoritative, punitive role. It's very much the sharing of how we like to do things at Dublin Airport. It's the sharing of our safety culture, how we increase our reporting, how we ensure our accidents are to a minimum, and how we ensure, whether it's from a mentor capacity, new staff, as I'm sure any aerodrome operator on this platform today is ramping up for the summer operations and the amount of new staff that are coming on board. So what we achieved, bearing in mind we had our last safety stack conference just last week, last Wednesday, it was number 6. So we're very much in our infancy. We have, in 2023, we have a new airside caution system. We haven't completely dispatched our fines, but we're slowly but surely heading that way where we look at the educational piece of airside cautions. Our DGOM, that is our Dublin Airport Ground Ops Manual. So we've had a lot of workshops in relation to how can we do things more simply? How can we adopt another stakeholders process, whether it's cones around an aircraft, pigs, working at height, ensuring all PPE equipment is adhered to the rules and regulations. So that's been incredibly interesting for us to have everybody on board and looking at how we can work smarter. We had an inner road deep dive. We had an incident last year, a safety incident, whereby we looked at a traffic management system and what we can do to avoid future collisions. We had 2 safety days last year. They had been put on pause. We would have had those pre-COVID. So that was hugely welcomed. It was very well attended. And in fact, what we've done this year, and in line with the EASA's Safety Week, we've started a week here today of safety discussions, which means that we capture a lot more people than just a one-off summer and winter day. So we've certainly increased our cooperation and our engagement at our workshops. We started a fatigue workshop, and that was mine, and I hated to close it down, but people got fatigued about listening to me discuss fatigue. Our pilots and our cabin crew colleagues all have fatigue risk management systems. There wasn't a huge desire, so when we feel that something isn't working, we will put it on pause. So it's on pause for now. We had the hold down procedure. That was part of our group of American carriers that we had asked for their hold down procedure to be removed at Dublin Airport. This was a very big workshop. It included all of the carriers, the ground handlers, and there was a lot of engagement and risk assessment. So that was completely removed, and it's a much safer operation now for our pushback teams. We've added additions into our adverse weather. That was with relation to how we advise during electrical storms what can and cannot be ground operations can continue or need to be paused. We do frequent peer walks, so that is part of our safety stack. It's very good to get everybody out. So when we do FOD walks and peer walks, and we identify perhaps GSE that needs to be removed, anybody working in an aerodrome will know the pain that GSE equipment is, where you park it, what you do with any unserviceable equipment. So we're limited with our space here. So this is something that we have found has identified areas that we can improve on as an aerodrome, but also that our stakeholders have a responsibility. And then driver safety checkpoints. We have people that don't always adhere to the rules of the road when possibly driving into work. They forget that the rules of the road apply on the airfield. So we got everybody involved in our driver safety campaigns, and we asked all stakeholders to be a part of the driver safety campaign, not just our airside safety officers or our airport police, but we had fuelers stopping ground handlers. We had Aer Lingus, Ryanair, ramp agents stopping construction workers. So it really made a huge difference, and we can see the engagement piece has been incredibly successful. So where we're going in 2024, we want to progress further on the amazing foundational work that we have done. We're setting our targets as a community. So last week, this is what we discussed at the end of our stack. Where are we going next, and what can we achieve? So we have our roadmap and our objectives, our communications, our Dublin Airport Grounds Ops Manual, our just culture. That's a huge piece. While all of our stakeholders have a just culture, we need to ensure our just culture is aligned, and that it's not going to supersede our stakeholders. It's going to be aligned with theirs. So our safety ambassadors, as I mentioned earlier, that's being rolled out. We've already trained about 65 of our own staff to be safety ambassadors. Our SPIs are key. So alongside the likes of the chaps we're talking earlier about the LRST, we also have our Airside Safety Committee meetings and our SAG meetings. So our SPIs are number one. And then the general safety awareness that, that we ensure that everybody comes to work, they come in safe, they work safe, and they go home safe. So 3 general meetings this year. As I said last week, we had our very first full day. We'll have another one in September where we will review how we've gotten on throughout the summer. And then we have a half day in December that rounds up 2024 and looks ahead to 2025, concentrating on our 4 pillars, as I said, driver behaviour, our ground ops, our safety ambassadors, and all of our safety promotions. We meet monthly with our subject matter experts and we set our targets. So this is our roadmap and we chose all of these topics. We're promising that we are going to deliver on this from April with a new focus through to August, where we look at our cautions reviews, our GSE procedures, and what can we do to make us a better operation, through to November, where we're bringing in speed signage feedback. So that's going to work very well with our campaigns. And then we're looking at December. So our pushback targets to reduce those of any incidents, pushback incidents. And that safety stock then, as I said, looks forward to 2025. So I hope I haven't taken up too much time and I've adhered to my time limit, and I'm happy to take any questions later on when you're ready to discuss. And thank you so much.
Yes, Liz, we thank you. Indeed, you have not exceeded your time at all. On the contrary, thank you very much for that. And thank you for the presentation of the principles under which the safety stack is organized. I liked especially at one point that you said that, I don't remember exactly the words that you used, but the meaning was that it is not about imposing one's procedures over the other operators. It is about aligning them, which is actually what the safety stack and the local runway safety team of the first part has to be about, the cooperation of the stakeholders. Thank you very much for that. And our next panelist is going to be Jonathan Heavy, who is a ground operations inspector in the Irish Civil Aviation Authority. Jonathan, you have the floor.
Thanks very much, Yanis. Hello, everybody. As Yanis has said, I'm Jonathan Heavy, the Ground Operations Inspector here in the IAA. 9 years with the IAA and 21 years before that with Ryanair and Ground Operations. My presentation is basically to kind of support Liz and point out what we're doing as an authority to kind of support a safety stack. You'll hear me say lots of words like collaboration and harmonization many, many times, and you'll probably be sick of it by the end of the presentation, but I do firmly believe it's key. So firstly, if this works, are we working? There we go. So what do we already know from our side, from the authority? Well, we already know that Luton Airport started a stack there about 8 or 9 years ago. When we look at what they did, we know that between 2016 and 2023, they had a 52% decrease in airside incidents. That's a drop from 322 incidents in 2016 to 154 in 2023. And this is while traffic rose 7%. And interestingly, also punctuality rose by 5%. So they were able to do this with growth and with better operational procedures. First quarter incidents from 2023 through to this year, again, down 23%. So as an authority, I'm looking at this and I'm immediately seeing the benefits without doubt. I look at some comments from Luton Airport. We would not be in such a good place without the safety stack. That was said from all stakeholders. And then probably my favorite one, we learned the true meaning of collaboration. That sounds a little bit catchy, but the true meaning of collaboration and harmonization, like Sven touched on it earlier, the amount of times I go in and I see a hire, for something like a pushback, and I'm going, well, where's your pushback driver? Okay, I see you've got your training manager and you've got your ground ops manager and you have your ramp manager, but where's the guy who does the pushbacks, who can tell you the problems? And they're not there. So the true meaning of collaboration, everybody buying into it and everybody working towards the common goal with the subject matter experts in the room. And the subject matter expert on one occasion could be a 23-year-old who's done 100 pushbacks in the last month, and he's the person you want in there. So what do we already know? Well, Dublin Airport are starting this. They know not to try and reinvent the wheel. Luton and Dublin are two very different airports, but obviously a lot of the items will match across and they can use. They highlight increasing safety reporting. It seems obvious, but for me as an authority, I know safety reporting means improved just culture, which naturally means an improved safety culture, and naturally means you're getting people involved in the SMS. And that is massive for us here to see that happening. Absolutely vital. Harmonization, we're back to that again, but we'll keep talking about the collaboration and harmonization. It makes a safety stack work, we know that, but anybody from the ground ops world knows trying to harmonize processes is absolutely vital towards their safety processes. And DAA themselves say, ensure SMS is at the core of all of our activities, and sure, that's meat and drink to an authority. When we see that, when we see they're using their management system to inform everything they do, that gives us, massive hope towards it. So does the regulation support it now? Well, everybody here will know about contracted activities. Ground handlers currently don't fall under the regulation. So as we know with this part of the AirOps reg, and it'll be similar in the Aerodrome reg, that the contracting organisation will work under the approval of the operator. And then, of course, we have the operator responsibilities. Every flight shall be in accordance with the provisions of their operations manual, and the GOM falls out of the OMA. So it makes it hard for an airline to hand over responsibility or have a level playing field of collaboration when the whole responsibility of not just their aircraft, but also the handler falls into them. So right now, regulation doesn't sell itself significantly towards supporting a safety stack. It doesn't get in the way, but it's not supporting it as much as we would like. So that's why it's so important that we all push together, that we do the collaboration of an aerodrome and an airline and a ground handler and their SMEs, and make sure that we are aware that everybody else is a level playing field and we must work together on these items currently. But how do we support it in the future? Well, through EASA, and a number of us here, and I'm sure a number of people on the call are very aware, we are regulating ground handling. The opinion is out, it is in with the Commission, and soon we will have our ground handling regulation. And as we did that, the whole item of a safety stack came up, and we discussed how we can support this, because as I say, and I say it again, we want to make sure regulation doesn't get in the way of good safety processes, as well as making sure we regulate it. So within the executive summary, we state the importance for the harmonization and standardization of ground handling operation procedures is more relevant than in any other aviation domain due to the number of different industry standards and their coverage of the entire spectrum of ground handling operations. Among the most important achievements of the approach on industry standards is the moving forward towards harmonization of operational procedures for ground handling activities across the EASA member states. We're back to the harmonization, standardization through collaboration. We're not going to leave it there, obviously. Within the ground handling regulation, we have literally written it into it about the use of industry standards. And what does industry standards promote? It promotes harmonization, it promotes collaboration. So we stated here, when applying industry standards on a voluntary basis, the ground handling organisation shall ensure they comply with the criteria within our own, which is our own oversight part, the authority part of the reg, which is that states that we will develop and implement a process to regulate these industry standards. But we say above, the ground handling organisation may use either their own operational procedures or industry standards. And then we explain what industry standards and good practices are in the AMC and further explain it in guidance material. And then in the guidance material, interfaces with other operations. We point out here, and that's important just above what I've highlighted there, that when it comes down to it, that the organization that's ultimately responsible for the activity is the airline. They have the ultimate risk. However, the procedure should be as harmonized as possible for each aircraft type family to achieve greater efficiency and reduce complexity, thus enhancing safety. And it's clear, thus enhancing safety. There's no middle ground here. We know that if we get this harmonized approach within the ground handlers, it's going to enhance safety. And when we look at these industry standards, obviously we're talking about things like the IBAC, the IGOM, fueling manuals. These are the important aspects. But what we also now include, when we talk about the ground operations manual, they will establish a GOM. In the list of items of other relevant control documents that they can use within the ground operations manual, we state a safety stack operational procedures used at an aerodrome. We're explicit on it. This is a good process, this is a good approach, and we want to promote it. And then, of course, probably the most important part, I think, is the management system. So a ground handling organisation shall develop and implement a management system scalable to the type and complexity of activities. Wording's not anything new here. You're all very used to it with your Aerodromes reg and your AirOps reg. Further down, the management system shall include a safety management system that includes the following elements. And part 5 is identification of interfaces with other stakeholders and the ground handling organization's own safety accountability authority. So again, what we're saying here is you want to interface, you want to collaborate, you want to harmonize, But what the management system does is it gives the airlines, it gives the aerodromes the confidence that the ground handling the ground handling provider, now under the umbrella of regulation of EASA, will be overseen that way, and they can have confidence in what they are being told, and the airlines can use a ground handler's risk assessments. They can use their management system to inform and collaborate and have those standard procedures which massively enhance a safety stack, but also significantly enhance safety. And surely that's what we're all here for. That's what we want to see. This is certainly what the ground handlers want. They want to promote this. They want to be able to stand over their procedures. They are the subject matter experts. The ground handlers are the people who know their job. And I include that of your airline that self-handles. You know, within that department of the ground handling of an airline, they are the subject matter experts. They know what they're saying, and maybe the senior management at an airline needs to listen to those people as well as much as they can, because they would want this as well. I'm absolutely sure of it, and they have said that. All these elements placed in several implementing rules are expected to improve the existing level of trust between the aircraft operator and its ground handling service provider, and lead towards a harmonization of operational procedures in the future. And that's how the future reg, which certainly by the time Dublin's safety stack is starting to mature, we will have that regulation. And then as this hopefully starts spreading out across airports within our member states, we will have the regulation there to support it and promote it and give us the best safe options possible. And that's me. Thank you very much.
Okay, yes, Jonathan, indeed, we're also looking forward to adopting, to have this regulation adopted and later on applied to all our aerodromes. And this is actually the point, to bring together all the expertise of the ground handlers, of the operators, in order to achieve a better safety standard, better and increased level of safety in our aerodromes, actually, as far as the ground handling is concerned. Thank you for presenting, making all this presentation about the opinion that will lead to this regulation, which is the product of the collaboration of all the stakeholders, as far as EASA is concerned, from my colleague Adina Soni. And the good thing is that the feedback that we have from almost all the stakeholders is quite positive. So indeed, we are looking forward to that, and we are expecting that it will help also the application of the implementation of concepts such as the safety stack. Thank you very much for your presentation. So now we have concluded all the presentations from our panelists. It is time now for our viewers to set some questions. I can see here in Slido we do have some, but if I may, I will just make two of my own for the beginning. Actually, the one is for you, Thomas Libert. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hello, Thomas. Regarding your presentation, I remember that you mentioned that one of the disadvantages is apparently the delay of air traffic. So my question is that are there complaints from traffic controllers regarding this delay or the increase of the workload by switching stop bars?
At the beginning, there was complaints, but at the moment, they see the benefit of the system, and there are no complaints also of the additional workload. What I said was the discussion on if it's possible in the one or other case to switch a second stop bar. This is at the moment in a safety assessment, but there are no complaints from ATC.
I see. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Thomas. Actually, another one that I have is Liz from you. Okay, it's all about cooperation of all the stakeholders, ideally of all the stakeholders. What about those stakeholders that do not wish to engage? How do you manage them?
with a lot of tact and diplomacy. I think there are some that are not completely on board with us, but I think there's a realization there that they will be left behind. And as I said earlier, you know, the ones that may not wish to participate could add the most value. So I suppose that the challenge for us is to ensure that very slowly we do a lot of back channeling, we do a lot of separate discussions with people. There's a lot of flattery involved as well, where we just say, look, you've got a great reputation, we need you here. You know, it's don't get left behind, really. That's it. So it's a lot of tact.
I see. Yes, indeed. And actually, as you have presented, both of you have presented, it is a quite promising concept. The results are already clear and positive, so I believe that there are very good reasons for all the stakeholders to be involved. So now, do we have any?
Yeah, we can project them on the screen.
Yes. Slide that is.
There we go.
Okay.
Maybe we do this first one.
Okay, the first one, indeed. The first one is, I suppose, for you, Liz and Jonathan, an airport ground operations manual. The handler have to follow the airline's ground handling manuals if there is a contradiction and an accident happens. How will the investigator and insurance companies view this?
Well, I'm happy to pass a comment on that.
Yes, thank you, John.
I guess I'm not going to get into how an insurance company or something applied. That's not for us in the regulation. But it is absolutely correct to state that they have to follow the airline's ground handling manual, and if all else doesn't happen, then that is the key document. It falls down to that is the key document. That's why we're pressing the collaboration and the harmonization side. We want to get people together, and this has already been happening for years with your large handling agents. They are getting in a room and saying, look, you know, if we're handling an Airbus A320 and we're handling 9 of them this way, we have to handle yours slightly different. This is crazy. Like, you know, let's speak together and let's get together and work on this. And that happens to a degree, or some airlines stand back and just don't get involved and almost kind of say, do what you want, which we don't want. We want people collaboration, coming together, discussing the process and agreeing the process. But as stated in the new ground handling regulation, it's the top level is the airline's ground handling manual. They hold the ultimate responsibility for that piece of composite tin to fly, and it has to come down to them. However, you know, ground handlers already have ground loss manuals where they apply. We already have industry good practice in the likes of your IGOM. So this is why a safety stack is almost like a mini regulation. It's promotion in a small level, and we need to expand that out. And when we get a good practice now in the member states, hopefully of Dublin Airport, will see this through, which obviously they will. We can use that to help push ahead this kind of compliance. And as I say, get airlines to trust the ground handler. Now that they're under the regulatory umbrella, they can trust their management systems, their hirers, and involve themselves in them as well.
Okay, thank you, Jonathan. John, there was a question about the LRST in Finland, about the in Finland. I saw one. Can you go please down? Yes, yeah. Sven, most probably this is for you. Indeed, it is for you. Would you recommend case? Sorry, let me just read first. So, are you participating in the purpose? Just says. Okay, it is about the pilots being involved in the local runway safety teams, and the issue is that, if I understand correctly, it is that the pilots just stay there for 15 to 30 minutes in an airport, and actually inside the aircraft. So, how is this going to be possible for the pilots to participate in LRSTs, especially at such small aerodromes that are not the base of the fleet, and they have no permanent crews there?
Well, thank you very much. That's a very good question. And of course, I cannot speak for the Finnish pilots as I'm not in Finland. But from my point of view, for example, the virtual meetings for the German airports, I can say that most of the meetings are hybrid or virtual since COVID. So that's a good opportunity to involve people who are quite far away. And again, advertising the corporate associations. In this case, I would step toward the Finnish Corporate Association and ask them if you have a in-person meeting, if you could spare someone flying in their time, not being active as a flight crew member, just on their free time, or if they are set free from work for this meeting, to fly into this airport, go to the meeting, and after the meeting, fly back home again. So that would be the way to go forward and get them involved.
Okay, thank you, John. Actually, John is going to comment on two of our questions here. We found them quite good, but as a matter of fact, I will hand over to you, John, to explain.
So yeah, we had one question here. I'll just highlight it about. Sorry, not that one.
No, it's
the one that was top.
The new technologies, the second one.
Yeah. So, oh no, not that one as well. Where has it gone? Ah, here we go. This one about. Oh, so it's just disappeared. But sorry, they keep jumping around. But it was a question about the challenge of the workforce, and that, you know, with increasing competitiveness and the challenge of the ground handling not being necessarily attractive place to work, and the challenges in the industry between cost and effectiveness. And we have, you know, it's not just an issue that ground handling is facing, there are other parts of the industry, and we have a safety promotion task called SBT 0097, specifically looking at how we deal with future workforce challenges, helping to create organizations that people might want to, hopefully want to work for, supporting improved organizational culture, promoting careers in aviation, and trying to see what solutions there are to these kind of long-term problems. And some of them are local. There are lots of challenges here. You know, it's not something to solve overnight. So I just mentioned that. And then there was another question we had a bit further down on bird strike, wildlife hazard management best practices. If you go to the AirOps community, or even just type in EASA, AirOps community, wildlife hazard management, we have a whole bunch of work we did a year or two ago on that topic, supported by Star Insurance and with EasyJet, Jet2 and Volotea, with some work they've been doing, which was really good.
Thank you, John.
And then just this one about AI, we have a whole work strand on AI as well, around our AI roadmap. So just to mention that, and then there's lots of work in terms of technology, and I'm sure in terms of the runway safety work.
And information security in the aviation field, actually, we do have also already published easy access rules on that, which you can find on our website.
Cool. Well, I think we've covered most things.
Indeed. Thank you very much for your participation. What I want to say as a final word is that all our panelists have mentioned the importance of collaboration, both within the aerodrome environment, the aerodrome operations environment, and the ground handling operations. And it is indeed so, because let's say an aerodrome operator cannot see its own aerodrome with the eyes of a pilot or of an air traffic controller. An aerodrome operator cannot see the aircraft with the eyes of a ground handler. This kind of experience, sometimes accumulating through negative events, is very important and has to be disseminated. And the safety stack concept and the local runway safety team and other safety committees that have been established through the EASA regulatory material are very important, set the field in order for this collaboration to take place and to be successful, in order to achieve our common goal of increased safety levels. And I believe that this, unless one of our panelists wants to add something.
Thank you.
No. Okay, thank you very much for your participation, our viewers. I wish you good afternoon, good evening, and thank you very much, all of you, for your participation here.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Just to remind you, we start again tomorrow, 10 o'clock, Air Operations. Join us then. Thanks for coming. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Al.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.